The following content is provided by a I Am Refocused radio contributor. Pastor Vera McEwen with Love God Ministries will be sharing today's message. And now, here is your host, Pastor Vera McEwen.
You may rise for the reading of the gospel. You may lie down, whatever feels most comfortable for you. You have heard that it was said to the people long ago, "You shall not murder, and anyone who murders will be subject to judgment. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment. Again, anyone who says to their brother or sister, Raka, is answerable to the court. And anyone who says, fool, will be in danger of the fire of hell. Therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar, and remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First, go and be reconciled. First, go and be reconciled to them. Then come and offer your gift. Settle matters quickly with your adversary who is taking you to court. Do it while you are still together on the way, or your adversary may hand you over to the judge, and the judge may hand you over to the officer, and you may be thrown into prison. Truly, I tell you, you will not get out until you have paid the last penny. You have heard that it was said, "You shall not commit adultery." But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than to be your whole body to go into hell. It has been said, anyone who divorces his wife must give her a certificate of divorce. But I tell you that anyone who divorces his wife, except for sexual immorality, makes her the victim of adultery, and anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Again, you have heard that it was said to the people long ago, "Do not break your oath, but fulfill to the Lord the vows you have made." But I tell you, do not swear an oath at all, either by heaven, for God is enthroned in heaven, or by earth, for it is God's footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the great city. And do not swear by your head, for you cannot even know or make one hair grow. All you need is simply yes. All you need is simply yes. All you need is simply no. Simply no. Anything beyond that comes from the evil one. The reading of the gospel. The first message of this series around the letter E in relationship, spoke of salt and light. If you turn to Matthew chapter 5, verses 13, 14, and 16, it tells us to be salt and light and to shine. So we in unity, we in community, we as a collective spoke of salt as simply applying life to the mix, simply adding light to the mix, simply applying love to the mix. And that was the first message. The question in that message was, are you energizing? Are you enthusiastic? Are you excited in your relationships? And here we are, this second message is all about being in reconciliation that energizes relationships. Are you in relationships that inspire life, a life energy that lights up the oceans like the plankton? Are you in relationships that are energized and enthusiastic and excited around who you are? This week I've been running, as always. I run on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in the wee hours of the morning. And I often think, why did God make me so full of energy and life, especially early in the morning? And why did God make me bubble over with that life? And I've been thinking around that because so often people nowadays have been talking about this imposter syndrome. And so I thought to myself, am I an imposter? Well, why is it that I wake up and I have this excitement about life? Why is it that I wake up and I feel enthusiastic about life? Why is it that when I wake up, I am excited? If you were to go to my mother's house, which is not too far from where I am, if you were to go to my mother's house and ask my sister Debbie if I've always been like this, she will tell you, yes, I have gotten up singing. And she'd say, can you just not be so alive that early in the morning? You can ask my sister, Doris, who often reads for our community. When her and I lived together, I'd be singing loud downstairs. Remember, Doris? And I was wondering this week, as I go through my work week, and I'm excited, I'm enthused. I love what I do at the office. I love what I do in ministry. I love that I write these books. I love God's word. And I was thinking, am I an imposter? Wednesday when I was out on my run, it wasn't Monday because Monday was something else was going on. Wednesday when I was out on my run, I'm running along and I'm thinking about this this imposter syndrome. I'm like, Vera, are you an imposter? And then a light came on, a bright light that came on in my mind. And I remembered when I used to be an aerobics instructor, a personal trainer. And I'd read all this information to become certified. And when I became certified, I learned through my reading, through my learning, that when you get up and you go out for a run, all these amazing things like drugs happen to you. That's right. There's this dopamine that just floods your brain and mind and sets you on fire. So a part of my joy is the joy of the Lord, obviously, but it's also that inspire, that these endorphins, these dopamine comes in and fills me. I am not an imposter. I get up and I'm full of life because the first thing that I do is before I get out of the bed, I read the word of God, that living word that gives me the joy in my heart, that blesses me in a way that is full of life and energy. And then I go out for my run and the dopamine, the endorphins kick in and I go to the office and I'm filled with life. I begin writing my book, the book that's based on the life of the women in the word, and it inspires me and it fills me with more life. Then I go to my office and I start working for the company that I work for, and I am filled with energy and joy because I have a great job, because I'm working around great people, and because I'm inspired by the word to inspire others. It's not imposter's syndrome. When I was thinking about this sermon and who I am and how I draw energy, I was thinking about myself as a youth. And even then, even as a youth, I definitely was a dendrophile. You're thinking, what the world is a dendrophile? And I'll say it like this, dendrophile, because dendro is a word that I learned in Greek, and it means tree. Tree, dendro. And dendrophile is, that last portion is like Philly, like Philadelphia. And that's the city of love, right? The city of communal love, the city of a we love, the city of unity love, the city of community love. So you add that Philly to that dendro, and you have that dendrophile. And what is that? It's a person who loves trees. And you know me. I consider myself like the Lorax, right? Who kind of picked himself up and went into the sky. I remember as a youth, you could find me if you were looking, which my mom was often looking, especially when the street lights came on. You could find me in the wooded area down the road from my mom's house, sitting on a log at the pond. Or you could find me in the nature center walking through, and I could spend forever. And I'd get home, and my mother would say, "Where have you been?" I'm like, "Well, I was in the woods." Wrong is what she said. But I was in the woods. And I just found out that along with running and those obvious, wonderful endorphins and that dopamine that gets into your body, I was feeling the drugs of the trees. That's right. I was just reading that the trees send off a medicine, send off a wonderful essential oil that when you commune in unity with the trees, makes you feel real good. This book that my daughter gave me for Christmas, Being with Trees, Awaken Your Senses to the Wonders of Nature by Hannah Fries, has on page 118 talks about this medicine of the trees. And it says, the trees' medicine is our medicine too. The feeling of well-being we get from spending time in the woods is more than psychological. Thank you for letting us know, because I needed that. Trees release antimicrobial chemicals into the air called phytoncides to help defend themselves against harmful insects and germs. These chemicals are closely related to essential oils, that wonderfully intoxicating scent of cedar, for example, is the result of phytoncides. When we breathe the forest air, phytoncides stimulate our natural killer cells, white blood cells in our bodies that attack tumors and viruses. So when you walk or sit among the trees, your immune system gets a boost from the tree's own medicine. This is a glorious statement. One of the things that I used to give people when I was a craniosacral therapist, and still today, is I tell them to get outside and go for a walk. Get outside and go for a walk twice a day. And if you can, once a week, go out in nature somewhere. I remember taking my daughter, Deborah, every weekend, whether it was on my back in a Kelty pack or walking beside me out on she'll tell you, yeah, that's right. We would go all the time out to the mountains in the Pacific Northwest. Dog Mountain was my favorite, if you're listening. I love Dog Mountain because it's kind of straight up. It's on the Washington side and then it goes straight down. Remember that? I love walking in the trees. It simply adds light to the mix. It simply adds love and life to the mix. So when I commune with the trees, they are the beings around me that give me energy, that give me enthusiasm, that help it make it so that when I walk out for my 10-minute, that usually turns into 15 or 20. I'm not gonna tell you not, Liz, my boss, it usually ends up being longer, and come back. It gives me the joy, the enthusiasm to be in the office space. This is Black History Month. When I was a homeschool teacher, I remember making sure that we emphasized Black History Month because in her Montessori school, they never even talked about African Americans. They never even talked about Black history. And so I made an emphasis to make sure that I did. And I've been doing that with every February since Love God Ministries has been a community. And today I want to read a poem to you by Langston Hughes. It's called An Earth Song. It is an earth song. It's an earth song. And I've been waiting long for an earth song. It's a spring song. And I've been waiting long for a spring song. Strong as the shoots of a new plant, strong as the bursting of new buds, strong as the coming of the first child from a mother's womb. It's an earth song, a body song, a spring song. I have been waiting long for this spring song. Turn with me to Matthew. Matthew chapter 5. In the gospel reading of Matthew chapter 5, verses 24 and 23 specifically, it says that before we do anything, when we come to the altar of God, before we make it to our confession, before we come to God, we have to think about our we in relationship. And think about our brothers, think about our sisters, think about the people, think about our community, everyone, all people. Before we come to God, we need to think about our relationships. Are they respectable? Are they energized? How can we be reconciled within our relationships? And it says there, be reconciled. Before you do anything, be reconciled in relationships. I think about one of my glorious friends, and he and I are still friends to this day. It's been, wow, a good at least 23 years, at least 22 years since I've known this person. And I met this person because they were assigned to my team when I was a project manager out west. And I was told before this person came to my team, kind of like they were a troublemaker. And like they were on a pink slip and they were going to be separated from the company unless something changed. And for me, it's important to be in a we community, a we communal relationship. I've told you many times that the one answer I always give when I'm interviewed as the most important thing about the job is relationship. And I recognized immediately that whatever was going on had to be all about relationship. So I met with them and I said, I don't care what happened before. I don't care about any of the other projects. Let's just lay this out and you tell me what you can do and how long it will take you. And you and I'll just check in on a weekly, daily basis, whatever it takes. What I ask from you is that if you can't make a certain time frame, just come to me and let me know. Let me know early enough so that I'm not at the end. And he not only was on time, he became ahead of schedule all the time in this we relationship, in this energized relationship, in this relationship full of light, full of caring, full of life, full of love. Yes, full of love. When I say that to my team, they're like, you love me? Absolutely. That's what we are called to do in our reconciling relationships. And then I went to Disney. And with my daughter, I took my daughter to Disneyland and I bought these crazy cool postcards and I sent them to everyone on my team. And I had like a huge team worldwide. I sent them one to everyone. And what I did was they had these little crayon things in them. So I painted a couple of things with the crayons, or I drew a couple of things with the crayons. And I said, you finish the picture. But on the other side, in the postcard, I said, thank you. And I would thank them specifically for what they were doing on my team. And I know I've told you this story, but I got to tell it again because it's about relationship. It's about energized relationships. It's about relationships that are full of excitement, full of enthusiasm, full of life. We simply add life to the mix. We simply add love to the mix. We simply add and apply life to the mix. because we're called by Jesus to be salt and light. I was sitting in my cube because I never wanted an office. I always wanted to be right with my team. So I was sitting in my cube and he came into my cube and his eyes had a little tear. Do you remember this? I'm not going to call your name, but do you remember this? And he said, Vera, no one in all my 30 years of working in corporate America has said thank you. Simply add light. Simply add love. Simply add new life to the mix in our relationships. And that will energize the relationship. That will excite the relationship. That will create those vital signs that give you a psychedelic that will a run that has dopamine and endorphins spewing out. Are you in relationships that are energizing? And then, of course, something similar happened at my current work. I was told about this particular environment that I was getting ready to go into. And I am always excited. I'm always filled with love. Yeah, I know it's because of those endorphins. It's because of sitting around those phytoncides. It's because I read the word and it inspires me. So this past Monday, we had this really big meeting. It was a very long meeting. And it was filled with energy and life and light. Because my purpose for being there was to be salt and light and to shine that light. And I did that not by being the guru in the room, not by coming in and consulting and be the person who knew everything. No. I came in with energy, excitement, and enthusiasm. I added respect and wanted a reconciling environment. One that was in unity, community. And what happened is in that community, we created this collaborated collective that created an environment where everyone felt like they could thrive. Are you salt? Are you simply adding light to the mix? Are you simply adding love to the mix? Are you simply adding life to the mix? Finally, Friday comes along. And on Friday, I went to this meeting with one of my colleagues. And they were talking about finding time to get out and go for that run, to get out and sit among the trees. And they talked about how glorious it was to actually go outside. I had been encouraging this glorious team to go outside. And he went outside and he said, it's gorgeous out, but I felt so wonderful being outside. And the beauty of that was that in our meeting earlier, and I had to send a shout out to the entire team and their bosses, because in that meeting earlier that we had that day, every one of my team, every one of them had already done the check, done the work, we're ahead of schedule. We only needed to meet for 5 minutes. And so I added salt by sending a message of gratitude, a message that said, well done. And it was enthusiastic. If you see my messages, they're always very enthusiastic. I'm like, what? And I do, because we're supposed to be salt. Simply add love to the mix. We're supposed to be light. Simply add light to the mix. We're supposed to be life. Simply add life to the mix. My prayer is that you go out this day as salt and life by being reconciling in all your relationships. The peace of God be with you always.
Hey, it's Shamai Reed with I Am Refocused Radio. Make sure you go to IamRefocusedRadio.com to listen to today's episode. Once again, like we always say, keep God first, stay focused, and peace.